Time for another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast with you, as always, former Kansas City Royal and host of Breaking the Norm, Les Norman. David Lesky from Inside the Crown, who has penned his latest edition, talking about the Royals finally winning in the lottery. We're going to get to that. We actually have a decent amount to cover. Not that the Royals have done anything, but at least there's a lot of chatter about it. The Royals have offers out to free agents. This according to a piece that Andy Rogers from MLB.com wrote, quoting J.J. Picollo. So at least offers are out. It ain't going to be Mike Yastrzemski as he signs on with the Atlanta Braves. Did the Royals miss the boat? We'll talk about what he got. Who should the Royals be targeting? There's some rumblings about Teoscar Hernandez now up on the board. Pete Alonso and Kyle Schwarber have signed. What does that do for Vinny Pasquantino's future? Can we draw anything from the numbers that those guys got in reference to what it would take to get Vinny Pasquantino locked up? We'll talk about Carter Jensen. It seems like Matt Quatrero is bullish on Carter Jensen. Royals moving up, as I said in the draft. They were supposed to get 13. They're going to get number 6. And then one of the topics that always seems to get people kind of fired up, one way or another, the Jewish Community Center writes a letter saying basically to the governor and lieutenant governor, but published it publicly, we don't want the ballpark right next door to us. So what does that mean for the Royals and what their future home is going to be? We're talking about it here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running if you're catching us via the podcast. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation. Got folks lined up right now in the chat room. We're live, David, Les, and I, Thursday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Put it on your calendar, people. Make sure you don't miss it. And we will be certainly happy to have you on the conversation. Guys, let's get started with this. And that is the winter meetings. I titled it Winter Meetings Letdown. There are offers out there, but nothing's been done. David, the winter meetings to me, I mentioned this to Randy. Randy gets excited about this all the time. I'm like, he's like, well, some years are better than other. I go, the better than other years have been a long time. Like the things just don't happen at the winter meetings like they used to. But, the Royals have a set agenda. I mean, should we be concerned at this point, David, that they haven't, been able to accomplish more?
Yes and no. I think that how many of their targets are actually off the board? One. I in that sense, I don't think there's a whole lot of concern there. I agree with you though. The winter meetings, I've never been. Have you ever been?
No.
Yeah, I would like to go just to see it. And I was like, I'll go next year. They're not going to have it next year. There's going to be a lockout, maybe 2 years. But they are. I think what's happened in baseball, and this is an overarching theory that some people share. Every team values players so similarly that, and because it's just models now. It's not that a GM doesn't have anything to do, not that they don't have decisions to make, but every team values players so similarly that like deals don't need to come together over drinks at 2 a.m. because that's what used to happen. It used to be, hey, let's get this guy drunk. And I'm going to get this guy for nothing because he's going to be 17 bourbons in at 2:30. And it doesn't happen anymore. And so the meetings don't have the pizzazz. I mean, I still want to go. I still want to see it. But I think that what we've seen the last few years, the meetings almost set up moves in the week after. Like think about 2 years ago when they got Waka and Lugo and Renfro. Didn't work there. But those were all the week after, a week or week and a half after the meetings. So I think they're more of a setup. If we get to the first of the year and they haven't done anything on their list, I think that we should be a little concerned. Context dependent, obviously. If nothing else has happened, nothing's changed. But for now, I don't see that they've missed on anybody yet.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look. Let me put down Lugo because everything is coming up with the re-signing of. And I'm probably I'm getting the same thing with Lugo. I was trying to look at what the date was.
Oh, here it's. Let me find it. I'll get it.
To see where we were on the calendar compared to right now.
He signed on December 14th, 2023.
December 14th. Okay, so we are. So yes, if a deal comes together, that would be tracking that.
Yeah.
So I would say to be along those lines, and I agree. And Les, I'll first of all, the quote. JJ Poe called it, this from Andy Rogers, productive in terms of continuing discussions with free agents and teams despite moves not being made yet. Said they have offers out to free agents, but, quote, we're at the mercy of the pace they want to go. And so I get that, but they went out with the shopping list 2 years ago, and they completed it. They had a shopping list last year. They didn't complete it. And so it speaks to, like, I don't think they grossly overpaid for Michael Waka and Seth Lugo 2 years ago, but they probably did. I mean, isn't that what probably got it done was they had a list, they were definitive, and they paid up front. This speaks a little bit more to we're not the little, we're not the little turtle turned over on its back begging you to come play for us. We're a real club, and so we're not going to go out and overpay for the market. To David's point about everybody having the models and everybody being valued kind of the same, but is that the wrong mindset to have if that's what they have, Les? That everything's got to be on point because, I think on point, their models clearly, we can get to Yastrzemski in a minute, must have said, well, don't give him two. Really, basically, it's a 3-year deal. We'll talk about the structure of that in a minute. I mean, is this a mistake to be not more aggressive and not going ahead and deciding what we need is what we need and we're going to overpay for it?
Well, I'm glad you're asking me that question here, that I don't go to the winter meetings because I already get overly excited and impatient sitting here talking about it. If I were to actually go to the winter meetings, I would be following everybody around like a lost puppy, trying to figure out what they were talking about and getting my hopes up and reporting back. And, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. Oh, I saw those guys wave at each other from across the room. We're going to get a deal done. So yeah, I'm too much of a nerd now in wanting those things to happen. I think there was another quote too that JJ Picola said this morning, also in an Andy Rogers article, that he said that they haven't missed out on anybody that they were really interested in as far as free agents go. So that tells me that they were not interested in signing Yastrzemski at all, which I know we'll get to in a second. So they feel pat, they feel comfortable. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Something could happen all the way until spring training. That always frustrates me, but who am I? I mean, they don't care what I think. But again, I'm that outfield guy. I like to see that stuff happen. And when another outfielder goes off the list, I start to get pessimistic and think, okay, what other outfielder now are we going to miss? Because it's going to keep shrinking and shrinking. And I just have this big fear that they're going to go into the next season thinking that, okay, well, Jack obviously is going to be better. And our outfield just has to be able to produce more, and then wishing doesn't help. So I get a little bit nervous. I'd like to see something done, but I'm still banking on the fact that it's fairly early and we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, one of the quotes from Andy talking about potential of a multi-team trade. It may not be the one team involved. Cole said it may be multiple teams involved. It's hard enough to think for yourself, let alone other teams and how they value players. You're not just going to get one team to see equal value. You're trying to get 3 teams to agree on equal value, and that can be challenging, but there are some good ideas. There are some things worth pursuing and continuing discussions. That sounds good. I think the other thing he said, to your point about Les's point about, not really missing anybody that we wanted. Okay. That comes back to my point, David, about maybe overpaying, right? Let's just throw in the Yastrzemski part to this equation because he signs with
real quick. To be fair, I was just looking at it right now. I think Andy added this after it. In parentheses said before Yastrzemski signing with the Braves. So I too, and I think she may have added that and realized, oh, that looks bad. Because I heard it was Braves or Royals.
Well, and I heard that the Royals were interested, but I also always heard that the 2 years was kind of a sticking point. And I think for the Braves, it feels like if it was the Royals and Braves, it feels like the Royals maybe came around to 2 and the Braves basically offered a third. The structure of the deal, unless something's been updated from when I looked at this, I didn't look at it this morning, but last night they're saying I'd call it 2 for $23 million plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's $9 million in 25, $10 million in 26. And then it's either $7 million for the third year in 27, or you buy him out for $4 million. Like, so more than half of it to buy him out. I mean, you got to really suck for a team to go, we'll give you 4 to not play when it'd be 7 for you to play. But so that's where you arrive at 23 million. And I think most people were kind of thinking the Royals would probably would have loved like 1 for 10 or 11, and they would probably got to 2 for 18. That number there says to me, David, that there was a bidding war, and the Royals finally said, that's too much. Is that too much?
Yeah.
For Yastrzemski?
I think it is. Personally, what is he, 35, 36?
Mm-hmm.
Which brings up the funny quote of like, I'm 35, I'm in the prime of my life, and here comes the oldest player in sports. He's 32. But I think that I wouldn't give him that. I wouldn't have done that deal. The Andrew Friedman quote that you hear all the time is, if you are rational in every free agent, you will finish third, or whatever the quote is. That's the gist of it. And I think that that's a reasonable point, but I also think that there are free agents to be irrational on, and I don't think Mike Yastrzemski is that free agent.
Okay.
I don't think he's the guy that you say, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to guarantee you 3 and 30. We're not even doing an option. I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do 3 and 26 guaranteed either with him. I just don't. I think when you have a player that requires a platoon partner because he can't hit lefties, and is not going to get more athletic, he's not going to get better defensively, and he's solid defensively. No qualms about his defense. I would have been a little bit hesitant on 2 years, and the Braves essentially gave him 3, like you say. And I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with missing on that. As much as I would have liked to have had Yastrzemski back, the other side of that too, if they're talking about putting a platoon partner with Jack Caglione, how many guys can you have that need a platoon partner, especially a right-handed platoon partner that you've not been able to find for years? How many guys can you put on that roster? So yes, it would have been great to have him back for 2026. I don't think they missed with that deal.
Too rich for you, Wes?
Well, just based on age, I really did honestly like his production. I like the leadoff home runs. I would have liked him to have been in a Royals uniform for a full season. I know it didn't happen. I know it can't happen. I just feel like projecting out, he would have probably hit better. What did he finish up around? 234, something along those lines. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah. I'll tell you in 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. So I think it was right around there. So I feel like if he started off in Kansas City and had a full season there, it would have been better. He would have projected out home runs a little bit better. Yeah, and to David's point, his defense is what it is. It's not bad. It's not elite, but it's good. It's pretty good defensively, and I would have taken that. So the Royals struggled with a leadoff hitter for a lot of years, and then you get a guy that could be a good leadoff hitter and a guy that hits home runs. That was something rare. So I would have liked that. But the one thing that would have kept me on the deal that the Atlanta Braves gave him was his age, because even if he had an average year, then you have to pay the guy in the second year and he's massively declining. Guys sometimes decline 32, 33. India declined a little bit in his offensive production in the first year that we got him. And so I think there's a little too much of a risk. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't have paid that.
50 games for the Royals. In a Royals uniform, he was 237, 339 on base, 500 for an 839 OPS. Again, that's just 50 games, 186 plate appearances. Before that with the Giants, I'll give you the splits. He was 231, 330, 355, so not near as much power. In fact, he had 8 home runs for the Giants, also not a hitter's park. In 96 games for the Royals, he had 9 home runs, so the power really popped. He was a 685 OPS for the Giants for his career. He's a 238, 324, 447 for 772. And now you're paying for years 35, 6, and 7 if you're the Braves. I just felt like guys tend to come here, fall in love here. The Royals fall in love with them, they get the deal done. And this says 2 things to me. One, he didn't fall in love in Kansas City, right? It wasn't like, I got to be here. And I don't blame him. I think he also was like, I'm 35. I'm going to take the biggest check, right?
Mhm.
Because we're not talking about a guy who's coming off a $120 million contract or something like that. We're talking about a guy who's, still trying to, really make the bank. And so I
Yeah.
felt like when they didn't get it done before he got to free agency, it wasn't going to get done. The fact that they were still in the mix, I think kind of says something, but yeah, I don't, David, I don't know how we can put too much stock into such a small sample size when everybody in San Francisco, the reaction when they traded him was good riddance.
Mhm.
Well,
that's
and
the
also
other thing.
look at his September.
It wasn't like they were like, oh my God, I can't believe we just lost Yastrzemski,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, in August, so that was all Royals, 268, 354, 622. Great. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
In September, 203, 3 off. Now, there were things that were good in that. I mean, he had some bad luck, truthfully. I mean, his hard hit rate in September, I think, might have been, if I remember right, I'm trying to find it right now. I think it was higher than it was in August. Like, he probably could have fared better, but the bulk of the production was in August. He fell off in September when the Royals fell off. And that's not, if you're banking on Mike Yastrzemski to lead you to the playoffs, that's your first problem. So I don't want to blame, I'm not blaming Yastrzemski for that, but it was 2 months. One was good, one was bad. Over the course of a season, would that correct to 4-2, 4 good, 2 bad? Maybe, because everybody's streaky. But I do think that there was a lot of emphasis placed on that August, which, look, guys get rejuvenated sometimes. The Giants were kind of a weird situation. Maybe he'd grown stale there. I don't know. Goes to a different spot. Matt Quatraro was a guy, players love him. So maybe that built him up. I don't know. There's some of that dead cat bounce, not to call him a dead cat, but
Right.
I think that played a part in it. And I think he's going to have a nice couple seasons for the Braves. I would have loved to have had Yastrzemski, just not for 3 years, not at that cost.
Yeah, the question is, I think we're going to come to is, do they end up overpaying for somebody who's less later? Right. That's going to, do they get desperate? Because I think, you look at it and we hear that, okay, there's irons in the fire, but it looks like that the Royals are very much committed to the numbers and the math and the values that they have for players. And, usually we hear about, like Jerks and Profar. We'd go, what did Profar end up getting? 3? The Royals didn't really want to go 2 on him last year, and 3 ended up getting him, right? Like we usually hear that they were, Santander, the Royals were willing to go 3, the Jays went to 5. And so it usually comes down to, there's a team that goes, okay, we'll do what it takes to get the player. We know there's going to be bad money on the back end, but we believe in the player. And so we're going to do what we need to do to get him. Now, the Royals at this point don't seem willing to do that. So let me ask you this, Les.
Mhm.
If they had to take the field, we do this a lot with football in the sense that the Chiefs will go out, I think most teams try to fill any need they have in free agency and then say, okay, now we can draft the best player available. We don't have to take a linebacker because we signed this veteran guy over here. He may not be spectacular, but if we got to play on Sunday, he can go line up and play. If you had to play on Sunday and you're the Kansas City Royals, what does left and right field look like right now? And
right now, ooh.
yeah, what and you're gonna, the first 2 days you're gonna face a lefty one day and a righty the next day. I mean, I'm thinking you face the righty on the opener. Jack Caglione's out there. Michael Massey's in left, right?
Yeah.
You face the left-hander. Kyle Isbell's still patrolling center. You don't have an option there. And who's the platoon partner right now? It's what, Dyron Blanco is one of them.
Tyler Tolbert
and
Yeah.
or Nick Lofton.
Yeah.
Now I will say this: Nick Lofton and Jack Caglione and Michael Massey are at least players that you can believe have ceiling, right? This is not, like I'd rather see Michael Massey go out there and hope that it's going to click than see Reggie Sanders at age 38. And no offense to Reggie, who's been in the organization for a while, but when he came over to the Royals during the Allard Baird era, you're like, yeah, I love this signing. 11 years ago. Right? Like, that these are at least, can we say, less players with upside if you did have to go play right now. So maybe the Royals are like, and people are not going to like it. This will be the first time that they'll really be disappointed in the offseason, especially after missing on an outfielder last year. But horrific if they are standing their ground and trying to get guys at their fair value.
Well, I'm listening to the words you're using. First of all, the if is all caps, bold and italicized.
And not horrific.
Yeah. Horrific is, I don't want to hear that word. I don't think it's horrific. I just get to the point. I'm in this whole, and I've said this before, so I won't belabor the point, but for a lot of years, I feel like the Royals and Royals fans continue to settle. Well, we didn't get this done, so here's what our corner outfield, or here's what our outfield in general looks like, and so we're just going to make do with the best of it. Well, that's the glaring hole in your offense. I mean, most of the production came from your infield, so, and your DH. So, yeah, it's, if they did, okay. But right now, I'm just not willing to settle for that. I'm eyeballing outfield free agents. I'm waiting for this signing to happen. You know, I still have the Jaron Duran dreams. That wouldn't it be great for a guy like him to come in when a big trade or something? That would be awesome. But regardless of that, okay, I see your point, but I don't want to go to having to put Michael Massey in left field. I want somebody to come in. I don't exactly know who yet, and we can talk about maybe other free agents, but I would love it if Jack's still unproven. And so we need to have somebody that's out there right now until we can see, at least in spring training, what his swing changed into. He's still really long. I mean, I've been watching video of Carter Jensen's swing next to Jack's swing. And right now, if I had a choice, I'd put Carter Jensen in there 10 out of 10 times, just because his swing is so much better. His approach is so much better. So okay, but don't want to settle.
Yeah. Teoscar Hernandez is the new name, David, that the Royals can basically be interested in him. First of all, you got to wonder, the Dodgers just signed him and now they want to get out from him, but it's the Dodgers. Who knows what they have cooking? They're probably making a run at Kyle Tucker. They're probably,
Right.
they could be getting anyone to where it's like, okay, we're not going to get him. Here's what is, I have two thoughts on Teoscar Hernandez. First of all, he signed last year for 3 for $66, but it included a $23 million signing bonus. So when you look at it like $22 million per, you can understand that was around the ballpark of what the Royals were offering for Teoscar Hernandez. So if they were like, if you loved him, well, just go get him. Well, if you're going to win over the Dodgers, there would have needed to have been a fourth year, right? I don't think there's any way you're going to sign for the exact same deal with the Royals, even though they were coming off the playoffs, as you would for the Dodgers. So I get it. Why? Okay. But there is an element of like, would it have just been worth that fourth year? If you have interest in Teoscar Hernandez this year, you would have had interest in him last year. And why not just go ahead and spend the money and get the player you want? And if you had him last year, is that the difference in you getting to the playoffs? So the fact that they're doubling back around, or at least landing, or at least if these reports are true on Teoscar Hernandez, is this the lesson to do what Les said? Just go ahead, bite the bullet, overpay, figure out where you're going to save money on down the road, because you have this glaring problem with a club that is good enough to make the playoffs and you need to solve it.
Well, okay. So I don't know how many points. This is one of those things where you get a Twitter thread and it's 1/?.
Right.
First point on Teoscar Hernandez. I don't know that his example specifically, I don't know that anything would have taken him away from the Dodgers. It sounded like he loved it there and they won the World Series. And why would you go anywhere else if they want you? So I think that from that perspective, maybe that was never an option. He talked to other teams. He was like, look, I want to go back to LA. Once they offer me a deal, I'm done. If they don't offer me a deal, I'll come back to you. And they did. And he went there and all that. 2, back to the previous point. I'll say right now, if they don't make a move, I think they're going to, so I'm not worried about it. But if they don't make a move, I would call that a disaster. I think it's an absolute mess if they don't make a single move. Not that it can't work, but last year, this is wins above replacement. There are some wonky metrics here, all that. They were minus 0.7 in left field, minus 1.5 in right field. They missed the playoffs by 5 games. You don't have to be great. You have to be not terrible. Yeah. And that's that. So yes, I think that's a mess there. I think it's only 3 points. I think I've come to the conclusion it's 3. The problem, and this is baseball's economic structure, and this is where it comes in. It's not that the Royals can't give a guy $22 million this year. It's that they can't afford to be on the hook for $22 million in years 4 and 5, or 4 or 6, whatever. It's that they can pay a guy whatever he wants for a year that they know is going to be good. They absolutely, and truly, can is the wrong word, because they can do any of it. They are in trouble in those years that the Blue Jays say, I don't care if Santander is terrible. I don't care. We'll just eat the money. The Dodgers say, I don't care if Hernandez is terrible. We'll eat the money. The Royals say, we have this guy for $23 million. Now we got a black hole. That's the difference. And so I think they do have to be at least somewhat responsible in that way. But it goes back to the point I made, I think it was last week. their responsibility last year means they may need to be irresponsible this year. And that may be putting 2029 in jeopardy. And to that, I say, who cares?
Well, I do. I do.
Well, I care, but
because 29 will come and we'll be talking about why does this team suck?
And we'll be mad. And I get that. But I also think that, and this goes back to Bobby Witt. Everything comes back to Bobby Witt. I wrote this when he signed. This is Project 2028. Bobby Witt Jr. can opt out of his contract after 2030, decision on him after 2028. And really, he has to make a decision on the Royals. Am I going to sign a new deal? And if the answer is no, you've got to shop Bobby Witt Jr. after 2028. That is the time you will get. I mean, it might even be the smart move, honestly, because you could probably set your franchise up for a decade. But if you want to keep Bobby Witt Jr. with the Royals for all or most of his career, you've got to be good through 2028 to even make him potentially want to stay, because that's the time he's got to say, yes, I will sign a new deal. No, I won't.
Yeah. We are talking about, when we mentioned Teoscar Hernandez, his OPS plus was 103 last year. He's kind of bounced around in his career, but you are headed into age 33. Are you catching the downslope? Like, if the Dodgers are bailing, Dodgers do so many things right that if they are bailing, there is a part of me that goes like, okay, what are we doing? What don't I know?
Would you be surprised?
Fantasy baseball, you offer the trade, you're like, oh, I'll love it if the guy does. And he immediately says yes. You're like, wait a minute, what am I missing?
Oops. Well, it's any negotiation.
Yeah.
Would you be surprised to know his sprint speed is higher than Kyle Isbell's? Shocked me.
Yeah.
He can run, he can throw, he just can't catch the ball. He takes terrible routes in right field. I mean,
then there's that. I mean, it's just that.
It's a very, and look, corner outfield in Kansas City is notoriously easy to play. So there's no concern there at all.
Yeah. All right. If he's not the target, who is? Les, do you still have a dream scenario? Brendan Donovan's name as the Royals continue to be one of the names that's featured very prominently with him. He seems to be like, I mean, I have no inside information, but just all the different directions you keep hearing the Royals mention with it, that seem to be pretty big on that conversation. And I could say for the Dodgers always seem to be willing to take on pitching because they always seem to get it hurt. So like, it does make sense on Hernandez, but who's the dream in your mind now for the Royals to land?
Dream for me. I love the way he plays outfield. I love his makeup. Again, it could be like a leadoff hitter. Donovan again is another guy that I would go with. I would love to have a guy like him to be there in the Royals outfield. Then I get into my second tier thoughts of Harrison Bader or Adolis Garcia. But Harrison Bader comes with a health asterisk, and Garcia comes with his production's down. Still, hard hit rate is up and can bounce back. It hasn't been down a ton, but so. Then there's a little bit of settle. They're not too expensive, maybe at $10 million a year, around $5 to $10 million a year. But there's probably going to be other teams like in Atlanta pulling Yastrzemski away from the Royals that are going to be out there that are going to give him more. So I still think that it's like a Donnelly or a Duran, but it's going to have to be a big, almost that multiple team trade, or we're going to have to give up some pitching, which again is fine. We've talked about that. So those are my still dream type outfielders. I haven't even been thinking about relievers. I haven't been thinking about other people. It's just corner outfield, or even if it's a center fielder and Isbell moves to left field. Okay, fine. Great with me. But just somebody in that caliber just has to be able to be signed to come in, or else this change is not going to be something that's even.
Dream target now, David?
Yeah, I mean, Donovan is up there. I think he makes a lot of sense. I worry about the price because there's 28 teams on him, it seems like. Yep. One thing that I've heard, I don't know if you guys have heard this too, is the whole Bubic not getting the offers for. The Royals were looking for controllable pieces. And if they're willing to take on 1 year, teams want Bubic, especially some salary. So that opens the door a little bit. Like Randy Arozarena could make some sense there. The Mariners, I think all things equal, the Mariners would like to have a lefty in the rotation. And I think that there could be like a little, maybe this is the 3-team deal where it's Bubic goes to the Mariners, Arozarena to the Royals, and then Duran to the Mariners for one of their right-handed starters. Like, I think that's kind of and this is just me spitballing, but that could make some sense. And so it opens up a few doors if you're willing to take on 1 year, which again fits the mold of we're not going to have a back. You got to keep doing it, and that's the hard part. But But yeah, I mean, like I said, Donovan for me, it makes the most sense. Ramon Laureano, I don't know if he's available, but he would make a ton of sense. Padres they got to strip some payroll. They've talked about that. He's not a lot of money, but I would love to see him in left or right field for the Royals. And then Duran's fine. I worry about the price on that too. But they're to the point. Nobody's really. It's been Taylor Ward and Mike Yastrzemski now. Now, last week it was Taylor Ward. Next week it could be Taylor Ward, Mike Yastrzemski, and it eventually starts to get less. But I feel like almost all their targets are still there.
All right, Schwarber and Alonso come off the board. We will talk about what that means for maybe trying to get Vinny Pasquantino signed. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Frontier Justice.
This episode of Kaufman Corner is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee's Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about the deals. Basically 30 and 31 million per on 5-year deals. Kyle Schwarber, 5 for $150 to go back to the Phillies. Pete Alonso, 5 for $155 to go to the Orioles. David, we have talked about, Vinny Pasquantino. And when we've mentioned signing him, a lot of times the conversation has come up, well, Pete Alonso could only get a 1-year deal. Right? Like that was like, how much is Vinny Pasquantino really worth? And the market last year said, well, the first baseman that's, a hitter is not worth that much. We're not going to go out and pay him. Well, Kyle Schwarber's a DH in all practicality, and Pete Alonso is a first baseman at best. And now they just got 31 million. Did the Royals miss the opportunity to sign Vinny Pasquantino this year when that was the comp? Like, oh, what do you think you're going to get? Pete Alonso couldn't get the big money deal. Well, now Pete Alonso did. Does that now make it really difficult for the Royals to add a couple of years of control onto Vinny Pasquantino?
I don't think it changes as much as it may seem. And the reason why I was just pulling this up because I meant to earlier and forgot. You look at like weighted runs created plus. Kyle Schwarber last year 152. Pete Alonso 141. Vinny Pasquantino 116. I love Vinny. I think that if he's there are. The smart baseball move is probably not this, but if he's a Royal for life, I'd be happy. I mean, I just love Vinny Pasquantino, but he's not in their ballpark yet. And so I think that if you look more to the Josh Naylor deal, which to be fair, got done first. And I'd be curious what Josh Naylor would have signed for had Alonso and Schwarber signed before he did. My guess is roughly the same because what it was a 5 and 87 and a half, is that right?
I thought it was the 90s.
Did it get to 90? I thought it was just under 19 million. Maybe it was 5 and 90.
Let me see.
I'll
tell you.
But 5 and 92.5. That's what it was. It was just over 90. So he still comps much more to Josh Naylor. He comps much more to some of those other guys that Alonso and Schwarber are these beefy power bats. And Vinny, to be fair, kind of has morphed into that more. I mean, 32 homers. He had a 264 average and 323 on base. We kind of thought he might be more of a 290, 370 guy. with a similar slugging percentage. So the isolated slugging percentage was down, but he still isn't in their ballpark yet. And it could be that he gets there, and then you start to say, well, he's going to get 5 and 150. But at this time, if they were to go offer him a deal, I don't think his agency would love to. But I don't think that comping him to those two would make a ton of sense.
Yeah, and let me be clear, Les. My point is not to say that he gets $30 million. My point is to say that you can't be like, well, no one's going to give a multi-year deal to you because you play first base. We've seen, and I like David bringing up Naylor. We've seen multiple guys get multiple years that are the first baseman. You know, the value did go up. Like whatever you would offer Vinny Pasquantino to tack a couple of years on last year, there's now much more evidence for his agent to point to and say, no, it's got to be more, because there is a market for guys like my client. So did they miss the boat on trying to get him done, get an extension done for him before these contracts came down?
I think a little bit. I would love to have Vinny in a Royals uniform for life too, like David said, but I think that this is going to hurt their chances a little bit in doing that. If I'm Vinny's camp and I see the Alonso signing, I'm a happy guy, even though I may not capitalize on that for a little bit. If I just keep putting the numbers up, I mean, if you look at the numbers, they're pretty similar. I mean, Vinny's a little bit behind Alonso, but I mean, they're pretty close. I mean, even to the point that they're both 6'3", 245. They're listed. I mean, they're so similar in a lot of what they do, except obviously one's a righty, one's a lefty. So yeah, they might have missed it a little bit, because just simple math. If they come in before and do this deal, they could get him for a lot less. But now if I'm Vinny's agent, I'm thinking, okay, now there is the market. We're going to be able to get you a lot more money if you just keep putting these numbers up. So yeah, I think they missed it a little bit. I think Vinny likes being in Kansas City. But again, this is a business.
Right.
It is a friendship. It is a relationship. But the bottom line is, it is a business. And Vinny and his family and his future family and his agency is going to get the best they can. And this just really helped them up that.
And he'll be in free agent in what year? David, do you remember what year Vinny comes up?
He has 3 years left, so 28, 29 off season. So he'll be 30, heading into his 31 season.
Yeah, so teams that if you're adding on, is 31, 32 and beyond. The other thing that I think is of note is Kyle Schwarber is going to be 33 on opening day, and Pete Alonso he just turned 31. Mm-hmm. So the idea that like, oh, you're too old, the market just gave 5-year deals to guys that will be the same age as Vinny Pasquantino.
Well, and Naylor's only 28, so I think he's right. Is he 28 or 29?
Well, but that's the thing. It's like we've talked a lot about Vinny. Like, okay, well, do you really want to tack on, because you're tacking on age 31, 32, 33? Like, is he a hitter? Are there offers out there for guys that age? Yes, there are. Now, those are elite guys. Now, let's point out the track record of Kyle Schwarber and Pete Alonso is definitively longer right now.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no way you're giving the suggestion, just to be clear, never was the suggestion 5 for 150 to lock him up. But the idea of whatever it would take, I do think it got more expensive now.
Yeah. They definitely, it definitely showed that guys are getting, I mean, I'm looking at the first base contracts right now. You've got Vladdy, Bryce Harper, who was not signed as a first baseman. Matt Olson got 8 years at 27. Okay. But that does cover 31 through 35, right? 31 through 34. Jake Cronenworth, not really a first baseman. Freddie Freeman got 6 years at 32. Other than Cronenworth, who again was more of a utility guy and also signed for $11 million a year, which if Vinny wants $11 million a year, give him 10 years. I don't care, but most of those guys are elite talents. And I think Vinny can get there. I don't think he's there yet. I think he's a really good player.
I think there's probably still a little bit of question about would he stay healthy. He did that, but and like, oh, well, do we want to be locked in when we got Jack Caglione coming? I don't know. You feel a little better now. Like you're going out looking for a platoon partner for Jack Caglione. So I don't think you'd mind having Vinny signed at this point. And to me, it would be if you're resolute on the player and what he is, then if you got him signed, that's always a contract you can move. Right. Yeah. Like, not for a lot. I do agree. I think he has less trade value than he has free agent value. Like, I don't think Kyle Schwarber or Pete Alonso people were lining up to trade for. Mm-mm. But when it's like, all I have to give you is money and I know the bat that I'm getting, okay. I don't want to give you prospects because I don't really know if these guys are going to be more than DHs. And that's what they'll be thinking along Vinny's line as well. So I don't know, I'm not saying you're going to break the bank in trading him, but you would have been able to trade him. Like, people could use a bat, especially with there being a DH in both leagues now. Let's talk a little bit about Carter Jensen. You liked what you were hearing, David, from Matt Cotrera. Do you think it shines well for the usage, how they'll use him this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, they talked about not getting a third catcher, which they had a handcuff in September for Carter Jensen. He didn't catch until they were done, basically, in the race. I believe the phrase he used was he's a baseball rat and has gotten better every year, which I think is that was I think it was in like a little press conference he had down in Orlando. It makes me believe that they are willing to do what we know they need to do, and that's more, and let Salvi catch less. And I think that, look, if you this is a Salvi comment too, because if you get Salvi out from behind the plate, you improve your offense. Simple. We've talked about it a million times. We don't need to go over it. And so to believe in Carter Jensen defensively behind the plate, I think immediately improves your offense, even if Jensen regresses, because it makes Salvador Perez better.
Yeah. What do you think? The fact that they seem to be showing, hey, we believe in the guy, that's got to be a positive, right? Like it means that the one thing that I like about it is I'm not hearing Carter Jensen running around in the outfield, which I will. Jeff Passan mentioned that late in my conversations with him on the program. I will lose my mind if that ends up being the conversation. And so I feel good, less that we're at least not hearing that right now.
Yeah, that would frustrate me a lot. Again, I continue to talk about the way Carter Jensen hits, just the pitches that he can get to and stay completely under balance and body control, and the way a big catcher like he does uses his hands and stays through the ball. I mean, that's amazing to me. I think that maybe they didn't catch him late. Part of this too is some veteran pitchers, your pitching staff saying, okay, we're comfortable with Carter Jensen now. We think he can kind of handle it. So yeah, it's a green light that we are comfortable throwing to him and we'll be fine, because pitchers are like that. There's certain catchers, and who wouldn't want to throw to Salvi? But again, he's getting older. He's still a heavy guy. The knees are still what they're going to be. The back's probably what it's going to be. And, it's just time for him to slowly start to transition out of there. And you've got a great potential in here with a little bit of catching behind in the minor leagues. So, I think it's great. I think that just understanding that if pitchers want him and they're comfortable with him back there, that's probably more of your green light than anything else. Obviously, his bat needs to be in the lineup. But I think this kid, if they start him the majority of games within 2 to 3 years, Carter Jensen could be an all-star.
Yeah. It warmed my heart to hear, okay, catcher. Good. Yes. Let's stay with that. I like that a lot. David, you wrote today on Inside the Crown about the Royals moving up from 13 to 6. You pointed out a couple of years ago they fell to 6. We were all disappointed. That ended up being Jack Caglione. By the way, we'll see how excited people are. Certainly, we're very excited last year with what he was doing in the minor leagues. But now they go from 13 up to 6. This means increased slot money. Like the lottery has frowned on them the first couple of years. It finally smiled on them.
Yeah, because they were fifth best odds in the first lottery and picked 8th, and then best odds and picked 6th. Which I wrote about this, but the 6th pick is like the worst you can have, because, well, from that perspective, going from 1 to 6, because you can only be in the lottery 2 years in a row, and so you might as well pick 7th, and then you're not in the lottery. You're not starting that clock. Turned out it didn't matter, but now you're happy because you think there's at least a chance they're not going to be a lottery eligible for 3 straight years, because if you make the playoffs, you're not lottery eligible. And B, they jumped up, and they were the 16th worst team, because that makes them the 15th best team. But they jumped 10 spots, and where they could have picked at 6, if there was no lottery, they actually gained about $2.62 million from last year's draft pool. Overall, I did the math. If you increase the pools by 5%, which is roughly average, it goes up with revenues. We don't know what revenues were yet. They're going to be at about 16 million in total draft pool. That gives them all sorts of options. 1, you can just draft better players. 2, you can spread the money out differently and draft. I don't love this, but you can draft above average players in more spots. You go a little bit below slot in the first round. That's why I don't like it. 3, and this part people won't like, you can trade your comp pick now and still have that slot money, and maybe that sweetens a deal for a Jarren Duran or whoever. One thing I literally just realized this from a comment on Inside the Crown: if they sign a qualifying offer free agent, which they haven't been rumored to, their third pick, which is their second round pick, because they've got pick 6. It'll be pick 31 when Zach Gallen signs, because the Diamondbacks got a pick for him. And then pick 50, I forgot what it is, 57, maybe 54, whatever it is. By moving up 10 spots, by getting that extra 2.7 million or whatever it is in slot money, if you sign that free agent, yes, you lose the pick, but the slot money doesn't hurt because you were probably already planning on 2.7 less. And so that there's some interesting possibilities there they can go. I mean, if they just run it straight and just draft the best possible player, they're just going to get better players. But there are other options as well. This is huge for them. Like I know people don't, when you have a playoff caliber team, when you have a team that's hoping to make the playoffs, you think, well, I don't want to talk about the draft. I don't care about the future. Well, you should. And they do. And this is huge for the future.
Yeah, it is. And listen, I just take a good player. So now up at 6, like I think Francisco Lindor went 6. You know, there are really good players. Like that is a good pick to have. And, you know, 13's not awful. I mean, I remember talking to Allard Baird about Tim Lincecum, you know, that he was intrigued by taking Tim Lincecum with the number 1 overall pick that year. But he's like, you know, a 5'10" righty that's got so many pitches, you know, that he's thrown in his college career. It's tough to take him. But man, if you're in the middle of the round, you love getting him because you're getting a guy who's good enough to go number 1 overall. So 13 wasn't a bad spot to be if they'd landed there. But at number 6, you know, you're much more likely to get a franchise caliber player.
There was a guy named Barry Bonds who went 6. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Also, Zach Greinke.
Yeah, Zach Greinke. I mean, this is good news, Les, for the Royals, and you know, finally good news.
Yes. Yeah. It's fantastic news, actually. This really makes me happy. I know there are scenarios and numbers, different generation, different game. You have to think about every possible avenue of what you can do with that pick and trading away, but or losing picks, whatever it may be. I am firm in the fact that you don't trade these spots away. You get this, you take better players right now. I just feel like the Royals are not a team that's in a position to be able to play around too much. Sure, investigate the scenarios, and that's great, but I feel like something would have to line up perfect for you to give something up. So I just say you got to that 6th spot. Don't mess with it. You've got the wiggle room now with money. Pick better players and rebuild that system a little bit again.
Yeah, and it does give them the money that if there is, you know, we always know there's a guy who wants way too much money. Well, maybe at 6, you know, with that extra money, you can get a guy who probably maybe we should have gone 2 or 3, but 2 or 3 said, "Nah, we're not in love with you. We're going to go signability here and push some money back." So, and maybe that's what the Royals do. Maybe at 6, they're like, "We think this is a 3-player draft up here at the top." Okay, that gives them signability, and then they can splash that money around a lot of players. So. Either way, it gives them much more maneuverability.
I always joke that wherever the Royals pick, that pick -1 top players available.
Oh.
ESPN, Kylie McDaniel put out an article immediately and said there are 5 consensus picks in the draft. And I was like, yep, that checks out. Royals got 6. There are 5 picks.
I know there was an edict from on high ground. I don't want to hear that anymore. Like that conversation resonates. This new regime, I think, is definitely like, I don't want to hear it. Because what do we hear? There were 4 players in the Bubba Starling draft, 4 pitchers. The Royals would have taken any one. You know who went after him? George Springer, Francisco Lindor. I think that
Rendon before he was trash.
Yes, there was all kinds of players that were there, and everyone acted like it was a 4-player draft that year.
I just think it's hilarious that it always feels like no matter what spot they pick, the experts go, well, there are 5 players they pick 8. There are 7 great players in this draft.
Yeah. All right, let's finish with this subject, and that is the subject of where the ballpark is going to go. You know, I don't know that we've heard anybody who go like, oh, it's fantastic. I think it's great. They're going to put the ballpark at the Sprint complex, right? And that has become, I'll be honest with you, what I'm hearing, that's literally the only thing on the table right now for the Royals. I think there are some people who would love to have them in downtown, but I don't hear that the Royals really have much interest in going to that spot. The Jewish Community Center, who I kept wondering, well, are they going to sell? And so all that land is going to be theirs. How do they factor into this? Well, we now have a little bit of an idea of how they factor into it. Dear Governor Kelly and Lieutenant, we write on behalf of JCC Association of North America. They go into all of what the Jewish Community Center is, all the people they serve, 14,000 individual members, 20 to 25,000 non-member participants. They go on and on. It says, talking about what it is. It said, based on recent media coverage, we are deeply concerned about the consequences of constructing a stadium immediately next to JCC's campus. Multi-year heavy construction, traffic congestion, parking challenges, environmental disruption, and public safety and security risks would significantly compromise daily operations and access to essential programs for members, families, seniors, and those with special needs. The long-term impact of more than 80 home games actually would create sustained pressures on infrastructure, safety, security, and the JCC's ability to function. The economic and communal consequences would be devastating. This is your next door neighbor. This is your potential next door neighbor. We've heard rumblings of people saying nobody likes that site. The Johnson County Community Center just said, let me make it official. We do not like this as your site. How concerned, this is my question. I know there are developers who have a plan to put it down by Crown Center. They're excited about it. I don't hear that the Royals are. The Crossroads went away. It just vanished. It's not on the table anymore. I've been told that the problem with north of the river is that the owner of that land is not interested in selling land. You want to develop? Great. You'll be my land. I'll be your landlord. That's not what the Royals want. They want to own the land. They want to generate the revenue. The Chiefs seem to have the prime locations when it comes to the Speedway. Like, how concerned should Royals fans be, David, that we're slowly taking every possible option off the board, and at some point we're going to start hearing Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen still at this point, but it's kind of like the outfielders. Right now, there's two gone. Eventually, you start to run out of spots. You're right. I think the J is interesting because that came from the national office, not the Kansas City office. Though I did see a quote from, I forgot who it was, the executive director at the J, talking about like an example. Think about childcare pickup, and childcare is huge there. That center is massive. People picking up their kids at 5 o'clock with a ball game at 6:40. I mean, there are risks. There are 100% risks. I was looking at the history of the J. Down at 16th and Linwood for about 40 years, 82nd and Holmes for 25 years. It's been about 40 years. And, you know, I don't want to get into population density. The Jewish population has moved a little bit. And so maybe it's time to move. I don't know. Maybe the Royals are going to make that decision for them. What I worry about is at this point, I'm almost a little bit worried the Royals just strong arm everybody and come out looking horrific, just awful. And that does nobody any good. I mean, people forget it, obviously, but I do think that site makes the least sense of any site. But you're right. All I've heard is that that's the site that they're zeroing in on because the other ones don't have any interest in it. And because housing a ballpark is not as lucrative as you would think. and it takes up so much space that you kill a lot of businesses. And that was the issue with downtown. There were the whole that whole strip of businesses that people were like, well, where are they going to go? The Royals just going to condemn them. I
will say about that, there were also people buying up those businesses because they felt that the eminent domain,
right,
the price you were going to get was going to be well worth it. Like, there were people prospecting on those locations as well. And so,
sure.
You know,
you're right. It goes both ways. I don't know enough to know about that, but yeah, it's the fact that we are now, what is this? The vote was in 24. So now but that 3.5 years into this, and there's still no answers. It's not a good look at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, Les, I don't know, do you have a reaction to, because I'm going to tell you, you know, I live out not far from the area, and I'm going to tell you, I know no one who says, yes, put it there. Yeah. Nobody that I have heard from that lives or works in and around that area wants the ballpark to go there. It right. will not be popular it doesn't mean that you couldn't build the greatest ballpark and the greatest surroundings around it and everybody go, man, I was totally wrong. This is fantastic. But right now, nobody is on board. These are just the first people to publicly state We don't want it here. Jackson County did not pass the vote, but there were many, many people that said, we want the Royals here, right? Is that the takeaway, that the Royals, as much as White was a pain in the it's much more difficult to get financing than it is in just one star bond out of Kansas, but the Royals need to go back to, where they're at and put a better effort in on that? Or I don't know. What do you take from this?
I'm just not sure that location by the Jewish Community Center is really where they're going to go. I feel like everything was back when it was up north of the river. That's all they talked about. Then that pulled back, and then it was Crossroads, and then it pulled back, and then there was a little bit of talk of up by the racetrack, and then it pulled back, and then, well, what about this spot? I just feel like this is another in and out because it's just been so quiet for so long. I just don't believe. Just again, personal opinion. People probably think I'm crazy, but I just don't think that that's going to be the location either. Kind of based on what you said, I'm not sure a lot of people want it there. And so I'm not taking a lot of stock in the fact that this is the place that the Royals now are going to absolutely go to. So, yeah, I still think there's a location. I don't know, but I still think there's a location that's out there that maybe we don't necessarily know about. It's always up to us to try to figure out, okay, what's the best fit? Where's it going to go? If it's close and residences, then someone's going to get hurt by it, and that stinks. I hate the fact that back when I had heard that Crossroads was maybe it, that there were going to be some people that were just going to be out of business, and that breaks my heart. I hate that part about business because I've owned small businesses before, and I know how tough it is to make those things work, and so I have a heart for those people. So I understand the big game part of it, but I'm just not sure that that's the spot down there that it's really going to go anyway. I mean, maybe it is, and I could look like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just don't think that's where it's going to be.
A couple things here. One, of course, is agreed. Not a good look. It's not good to have one of your potential neighbors putting that out there. Then this one was they seek problems that can't be solved and ignore problems that can be solved. But I'm not sure that I can completely get my arms around it, but yes, I think in the location that they found, they've created a bunch of problems, right? Like for this location. And what I think is interesting is what they've put into it too. From Curtis said the process by both teams has been horrifically mismanaged. I'll disagree with that. I think the Chiefs are about ready to put the plan in front of the Hunt family, the plan for renovating and the plan for going new. The Hunt family is going to digest it. And I think by the end of the year, you will have the Chiefs plan here. I'm going to tell you, unless I am completely in the dark, and I may be, because this is not firsthand from the Kansas City Royals, but the Royals are nowhere near anything, right? The Chiefs are about ready to put two finished plans in front of the Hunt family, and they are going to go A or B, and then they are going to move forward with one of those. The Royals, my understanding is, are not close to anything. They have a big chunk of their ownership group has paid over $30 million invested into this site, a site that people tell me is worth about $90 million if you want to develop it for business. The only way it's worth the amount of money that they paid in buying out those notes and taking control of it, and how that's going to ultimately end up in their hands, is if they build a ballpark with star bonds. That's the only way that makes sense. That to me, and by double the amount, that to me is an all-in move. Like, I keep trying to figure out how that is leverage for them to ultimately go back to Kansas City, Missouri, which is what I think John Sherman always wanted. I think there are other members of their ownership group that's what they want, is to be in Kansas City, Missouri. But it feels like they have guided themselves to where they have no options now, right? I mentioned there are going to be two plans put down by the Chiefs. I'm not even sure that the Royals have one option when I hear this, right, with all the different hurdles. And I'm going to go back to something I said, I think it's been about a year ago. Mark Cuban said he sold his controlling interest of the Dallas Mavericks because when he bought them, it was about tech, it was about television, and that's what he did. And he knew how to operate that. And he massively grew the value of the Mavericks. He said ownership of sports franchises now is about being a real estate mogul. That's not what I do. And the Mavericks need to figure out what they're going to do with their next building. And I'm not a real estate guy, so I'm not going to go out and try to act like I know what I'm doing. We need a real estate guy here in Dallas that knows what he's doing to come up with the arena and the surrounding revenue that everybody wants, that the Warriors got, that the Dallas Cowboys got, that the Chiefs are seeking with their practice facility. He said, so I'm stepping aside. He's still an investor in it and trust me, he may wish he didn't do it because that resonated with me. This is a billionaire who says, I know what I know, but I don't know this. There is no one in the Royals organization. Well, there are a couple of people in their ownership group, but the people who are making the decisions on this have no experience whatsoever in this. And time again, I keep hearing nobody knows what the Royals want. The Royals don't know what they're doing. Every time they turn around, they can't believe that they're not almost done. This has been horribly, the statement, it's been horribly mismanaged. At this point, I have no conclusion other than it's been horribly mismanaged by the Royals. And maybe the Chiefs will be added to that list. Right now, I can tell you, I don't think that's the case. I think the Chiefs are almost done. I think the Royals have a hot mess. I think they have a hot mess. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out. There has been momentum for over 20 years in this town to put a baseball stadium downtown. And the first vote didn't pass, and they just walked. That was it. Whether they got their feelings hurt or whatever it was, they have not been willing to go out and try to make that work. And it doesn't seem like they're going to do it now. And I am, for the first time, I don't think they're going to move because their ownership, John Sherman and the other owners, are Kansas Cityans. I think we may start getting threats of moving to try to get something moving. But let me be clear, the Royals have dropped the ball on coming up with viable plans and moving this thing forward. And they better get it right. They better get it figured out, because now you're starting to hear flat out public opposition to it. It's a critical time. Listen, if you are a fan of the Kaufman Corner podcast, which we certainly hope you are, you can always support us by supporting our great sponsors. Sponsors like Frontier Justice. You can see Les there. He's a member. Lee Summit, Missouri, KCK, Jenks, Oklahoma. They offer firearm retail, premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Learn more at frontier-justice.com. By our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. They've been serving KC for 40 years, voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's right. If you've been hurt in an accident, be it a work, fall, on the roads, call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-HURT, or text 22222 to HURT. Text HURT to 22222. Sorry to make that confusing there. And of course, our friends at Greenlight, 15 locations in Missouri. More on the way. Greenlight, your go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. For Les Norman, for David Lesky, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.